Hey everybody, my name is Chris Bello, and today I've got Kevin Wood with me. Kevin, welcome to this interview.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up? Good to
Yeah,
talk
what's
to you.
the what's the what's the name of the interview?
Yeah, that's what I said on the last thing. I was like, I want to say welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast, but it's kind of going to go on my podcast, but it's also going in a Facebook group. So we'll call
Hmm.
this one the Kevin Wood Experience.
I like it.
Yeah, so if you want to give a quick intro, maybe what you studied in school, what you did right after you graduated. I know you worked at Google for some time. Let us know
Yeah.
a little bit more about who you were before you got into real estate.
So I'm from Houston originally, the Clear Lake Friendswood area. So I went to Clearbrook High School and stayed local. Went to A&M. Graduated in '07 with a master's in accounting and then undergrad in finance and accounting. And went to Big Four accounting after that, KPMG. I was there for 3 years, and then just wanted to do something different, and so was looking for small companies to work at where I felt like I could have a big impact. And ended up being really just for a while one of two employees. There was two owners and two employees at this really small company. We ended up tripling our revenue in a year's time. So we went from, I think it was like 3 million to 9 million, and then 17 million the year after that.
Wow.
And so with that growth, we landed on Inc.'s fastest growing companies in the US list. And from there, I got recruited through LinkedIn to join Google. And so I went to Google in 2012. And then while I was there till 2018. I joined some real estate groups and decided to really start investing in 2015. Started out with some single family homes, and then did like a lot of folks do, and start looking at multifamily. But I saw that the small multifamily in particular seemed to provide a little bit better returns, and so started doing that. And then 2018, like I said, October, I left Google in San Francisco area, moved back to Houston, started putting almost all my time full time into real estate. And then last year as well, 2019, did my first real estate syndication on a larger complex.
Awesome. I didn't realize that you left Google you said 2018 was when you left.
October 2018.
Okay.
So it
Yeah, I didn't
hasn't
know it
been
was that
that long.
recently.
Yeah. And then and so now what we do with I have extra time now. So what I do is I do property management, and we do mostly small multis, and then some single families as well.
Awesome. So when you were investing, you said you started investing while you were still at Google. Were you investing in Houston, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I mean I think and if someone wants a like really good listen to like me when I'm just getting started, I was actually on the Bigger Pockets podcast in 2016, and I started just investing remotely, and it it's not as the scariest purchase I ever made was my first property.
Yeah.
We actually bought five at once, but that was the most nervous that I've been, and it gets progressively easier. It's just like doing anything new. Um, and I don't even remember what your original what your original question was, but I was kind of just going on a tangent there.
Yeah, no worries. I think I was asking, did you start investing in Houston while you were still at Google?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And so so like I was a big fan of the Bigger Pockets podcast. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
And they always talked about investing or investing where you feel like you have some sort of competitive advantage. And as I had moved away from Houston, I realized how well I knew the city, even though I grew up in the suburbs. And so I would, read all the. I kind of wrote a blog post on it, but basically what I'll do to research Houston is I'll take the Houston Business Journal and then upload it to an RSS feed, and then I would look at, okay, where's all the development happening, new restaurants, new businesses opening, where's that growth happening in the city, and then look at Chronicle, and then had friends on Facebook, etc. And I would kind of piece those all together to try to identify areas that were rapidly growing. And so in late 2015, that's when I bought my first 14 unit. And that was between Cavalcade and Main Street, like to the right of Shepherd, so just north of the Heights,
Okay.
into Independence Heights. And when I bought there, that area was pretty run down. And now, there's $700,000-800,000 homes in that same neighborhood. And there's
Wow.
still a lot of gentrification going on in that area, but it ended up being the highest appreciating market. And then in 2017, I bought 2 apartments in the Lawndale West Side area, which is off Telephone Road, kind of by U of H. And that ended up being the highest appreciating market in that year as well. And it's just, spending a couple hours a month just trying to scan what's going on and making buying decisions based off development.
Interesting. So you were using data and you weren't just guessing where the business was going to be going. You actually did some homework ahead of time before.
Yeah, and especially like on the small multifamily stuff as well, I saw there was an opportunity there because I was in real estate groups at Google, and it's very hard for someone out of state to buy, say, a 10 unit because they can't afford on-site management. It requires a lot of oversight and effort, and I felt like uh, the cap rates there were a little higher, so you could get better returns. And then also just finding stuff that needed some decent level of rehab to kind of raise up that value. And that was really like my business model until 2019 when I got my first apartment.
Awesome. So in terms of the timeline, how many properties did you buy out of state again when you were at Google? I'm just trying to get a feel for someone who's listening who has a day job and they want to buy their first property.
Mm.
Like, how did you manage it all and how fast did you start to build, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So okay. So I'll give like a quick rundown of that. So I bought a five unit, or sorry, 5 single family homes in March of 2015. And then in October of 2015, I bought a 14 unit. And then in January of 2016, I bought a 6 unit. And then shortly after that, I was on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and people started reaching out to me, and I was like, oh, hey, I can like raise money to help buy property. And so I sold my 5 houses so I could pay for the rehab on the 14 unit. And then just started slowly buying up small multifamilies. And so in 2017, we bought 2. In 2017, I bought a 5-plex by Rice. I got really lucky on that one. I normally wouldn't be able to buy in that area, but I got a really good deal on a property there. And let me look at my list here and see what else. And then we also did a little bit of wholesaling in 2017 as well, and got 4 houses from that, and then set up a seller finance deal as well that year. And 2018 was the 2 apartments, and then 2019 was the 52 unit.
Awesome. Kaylin's joining us, listening in.
Oh, okay, nice.
And for those who are listening to this on the podcast, I actually interviewed Kaylin not too long ago about her properties as well. So I don't know, I'll put her on mute, but if she wants to join, feel free.
It says, yeah, it says she was connecting. But
Awesome. Hey, Kaylin, thanks for joining us. Sorry, Facebook Live was giving us some issues.
Oh, hey, no worries. I was just jumping on to see how it was going.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I could put you on mute if that's okay. But if you have any questions or anything, feel free to unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, you're good. I'm heading out anyway soon. So
okay, cool.
Good.
You're just going to listen in. Awesome. So, okay. Cool. So where are you at now and what are your plans for, I don't know, the next 5 years? Like, where is it that you want to go? I know people's visions and their goals change, right? Like, you're probably way further than you ever imagined when you started, but
Mm.
now that you're here, you probably still have so much more to go, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, you know, I realized as I was managing stuff remotely that I was pretty good at property management. So, with the software background, I could get the most out of software, such as I started out with Buildium, and now our company uses Appfolio. And also just being a CPA as well, like, the KPIs and things that you need to keep track of as a management company, I think is important. And I had run a lot of international, like, big teams at Google as well for our projects. And so I was able to kind of leverage that as well into like having a maintenance team that we could grow. And, those are the two biggest things, in my opinion, with property management is vacancies and maintenance. And if you can decrease your vacancy time, so I think the average, I was actually recalculating it today. The average is like 40 days or so for a vacancy. For our single family homes, we're at about 20 days. So,
Wow.
take your rent 20 divided by 30 times your rent, and we're saving people thousands of dollars on that. And then on the management side, almost every single property management company uh, will mark up the maintenance that they charge their owners. They mark up 15%, but the way that they kind of get around that is they will actually have, because I know this because I did maintenance for two of the largest companies in Houston. You send them a bill, and then they send you back 85% of what you build, and they call it a marketing fee. But they do it that way because then they don't have to tell the owners that they're upcharging on maintenance, because they're like, no, see, here's the invoice, it says
Hmm.
$1,000, but they're
Wow.
only paying me 850. And I was just like, man, this is all, as a CPA is, and just business in general, and even like an A&M thing, like,
Sketchy, right?
integrity,
Yeah.
yeah, integrity and like ethics are just a really important part of, I think, being successful in real estate. And the property management business is geared to essentially like rob you of your like future wealth, I guess is how I would word it. And so I was just like, man, like, I'm going to charge more upfront, but I'm going to do like twice as good of a job and save people thousands of dollars. And because of that, we typically work with owners that have multiple units that are actually trying to achieve long-term wealth and understand the value of, good management. Because I think right now everyone just, a lot of new people especially, they search for the bottom dollar on the
Yeah.
property management side. And it's like, it's the equivalent of like saying, hey, I want a car. And they're like, oh, okay, here's one that the radiator's leaking and it barely turns on. It's 500
But it's
bucks.
the cheapest. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, maybe you actually want a car that's going to last you 10, 20 years, or a relationship that's going to last you 10 or 20 years. And so, my whole goal and our company's goal is like partnering. Uh, we're your partner in real estate. That's our entire motto. So if someone needs help putting together a deal, we'll help them do that. If someone is raising money, we'll help them do that. If someone needs maintenance or repairs, we'll help them do that. Because my whole thing is like, if you can just have a lot of opportunities to help a lot of people, then that's how you're going to achieve business success. And
Absolutely.
that's it's kind of my spiel on that, I guess.
Yeah, no, I feel exactly the same. I mean, even with the podcast and all the things that I've been doing, I never really knew how I was going to monetize it or how I was going to directly benefit anytime soon. But I knew that if you put the goodwill out there and you honestly help people as best as you can, it's going to come back. And I've started to see things pick up more for myself, just the relationships, like meeting people like yourself. It's starting to come back where people at least know that I'm showing up consistently and I'm doing as best as I can. And that's what people want to see. Like you said, the integrity piece, that's the hardest part for people to get over, that like distrust that you have at first. Like, should I trust this person? Are they going to burn me? Is this company going to do a good job managing my properties? So I think it's very important what you touched on there about integrity and honesty.
Yeah, and I'm actually starting a series, but like my whole like education piece is going to be called Real Estate the Hard Way. And the reason
Nice.
for that, I don't know if you've heard of this book. It's called Python the Hard Way, but it's a really famous book for learning how to code. And I did that while I was at Google because I didn't know anything about coding. And then within 2 years, I'd be working on the engineering side. So, I had a lot to learn. And the premise of the book is essentially that things worth doing are hard, and things that people value are hard. And it requires repetition, it requires practice, and there is no shortcuts. If the shortcuts worked, that would be the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, people try to short circuit and they're like, oh, I'll save a couple $100 in property management a year. But it's like, well, you're not going to, if your properties are filling up twice the amount of time, you're paying 15 to 20% more for maintenance. Like at the end of the day, you're saving pennies to lose dimes basically. And
Exactly.
real estate, and like you're talking about relationships, it's all a long-term game, and real estate's a long-term game as well. Like you don't want to be, you can always get something over on someone and take advantage of them once, but you want to be the guy that it's like, oh, hey, I've got a deal, I'm going to call Kevin because Kevin can help me achieve my goals, and he's always willing to work with me and help me out. Like you want to be that guy that lets everyone else eat at the table, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly. Because a lot of people, like you said, they'll pull one over on somebody or they'll try to have a short-sighted win, but then they burn that bridge. And it's a small world in real estate, as you know well. I mean, you can see the people getting called out in the real estate, the local Facebook groups. If someone does something or burns somebody on a project or walks away with a check, it's going to get out. And people, even if you're not 100% sure if it happened, you're kind of like questioning because a bunch of people will comment, "Oh, I knew this was going to happen. So and so did this to me too." And they're kind of just on
yeah.
your blacklist, right? So,
Yeah. And I think, I to back that up, I think a really good evidence of that that's really common is you'll see certain guys in the real estate community, both locally and nationally, that they just always seem to be raising money. And
yes,
the
they
thing
do.
is it's like every single investor that has ever invested with me has made money, and every single one of them wants to invest in my next deal. So when I went from raising, I guess like 500,000 to, I guess I raised like 1.8 million. I I extended my network a little bit, but I still had more people wanting to invest than I had opportunity. Um, which is what you want to look for in real estate investors, because because if you're making everyone else around you successful, I don't have to spend any of my time raising money. It's like if you look at my Facebook and social media and stuff, I'm never talking to people about, hey, give me money for these projects, because I have a network of people that have know what I can do and have offered to give me money, thankfully. And I think if you can be that guy, like the deal should be harder to come by than the money if you're doing it right, basically.
Exactly. Exactly. And what you said earlier about anything that's worthwhile is difficult. I mean, that goes for anything. I've mentioned it before that there's a reason, to flip a burger, you're only going to get paid so much because it's not very difficult. You could get trained on it in a day or two, but to flip a huge apartment complex and the complexity of the deal, of managing all of the tenants in place and the documents and stuff, that is why high difficulty equals high reward, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we really look for people that are looking to generate long-term wealth and long-term value, because you know it if you're thinking about just the front end and saving as much money as possible, you're not going to be a person that's developing relationships. Like, I mean, you're an agent, so like on the agent side as well, it's like, I'm not going to pay for an agent to sell my house, they're going to take all my money. And then it's like, well, actually that agent knows what your property's worth, they have a network of people they can send your property to, they can give you advice on how to make it look as presentable as possible so you can sell at a higher price. They know how negotiations work and how to, get your price up. And or on the property management side as well, it's like, you know people will pay $50,000 for a guru course, and it's like, I've got to, my owners can call me, and I've got a CPA license, so I can help them out with their real estate tax questions or accounting questions. We run all their comps for them. We have in-house vacancy management, which is like a really big deal, because that's how we get, the 20-day vacancy. And the people who develop, like I said, the quality relationships and the quality network are the people that end up growing long term.
Definitely. So speaking about relationships and growing long term, I know we've spoken about this before back in the days when we had in-person events. Can't wait for those to come back.
Yeah.
But I think this was at Pub Fiction, that multifamily meetup, where you told me you were in Go Abundance, and there was another group that you were in as well, like a mastermind.
M1, yeah.
M1, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so M1, they're not related anymore, but M1 used to be the feeder group into Go Abundance. So to join Go Abundance, you need to have $1 million net worth or more. And M1 it stood for March to $1 million. And
who was running that one again?
That's Rock Thomas is the one
Okay.
who started M1.
Okay.
And then Go Abundance was started by these three guys, David Osborne, and he has a pretty good book called Wealth Can't Wait. That's pretty good. And then Pat Hyben, who runs a pretty popular podcast.
Awesome.
And then Tim Rhodes, who's retired now, but was one of the most successful agents in California.
Wealth Can't Wait was the book that you mentioned.
Yeah, they wrote that book. And anyway, I think it's really important to have kind of the three types of people. You want people above you that can help guide you, that you can learn from. You want people, on the same path as you, that you can trade ideas with, compete with a little bit, and grow with. And then you want people below you that you can kind of help bring up and coach. And when you kind of keep your network full in all three of those areas, then I think you get opportunities from all those areas as well. And plus, I think it's fun helping people like kind of achieve their goals as well. And M1 and Go Abundance. M1, now that I've kind of grown out of M1, I'm an alumnus now. And so now it's more of like a coaching role. And then at Go Abundance, I'm, just barely above the bottom of the totem pole, basically. And so now I'm the new guy there. And so, both those groups have been really good in terms of, helping me grow. I went to a trip once for M1, and just having a conversation while I was there made me like $80,000. So,
awesome.
So it's like, you never know where I always call it like getting a nugget, and it's way better to have a network of people that you can rely on, and not pay the $40,000 or $50,000 for the guru course, because those are like huge wastes of money. And a funny story about that, I went to a Dave Lindahl one, and they were trying to sell me the like guru course, and they were like, oh, what properties do you own? And so I gave them a list and explained what we were doing. And the guy was like, I'm just going to say it right now. Do not do this program, but we have to talk right now and use the time.
He's trying to learn from you.
Yeah, no, I own more property than he did. And he was like one of the top people. And I didn't even own that much at the time. Maybe $4 or $5 million in property. And this guy is teaching people, how to be the next guru. And it's maybe those aren't the people you should be learning from. Find people in your market, find people that are, on a growth path, and learn from them.
Exactly. And so I like what you said there, where now you're in that new group, you're kind of at the bottom of the totem pole again, because you outgrew the previous group, and now you're stretching yourself yet again. You're getting around people who are still dwarfing kind of where you're at now, and that gives you another level to aspire to. And so I think that's extremely important, because if you're the biggest fish in the tank, then you kind of get complacent and happy, like, okay, I'm good. I got, $4 million in properties. Let me just coast and just hang out where I'm at. Whereas now you're back you're the small fish again in the big tank, and you're like, okay, there's some sharks in here. What do they do? How did they get their money? what businesses are they running, and how do I get to that level? And like you said, those $80,000 nuggets, I had a friend who told me the same thing. It wasn't quite 80,000. I think he told me he met a CPA in one of these types of groups, and that guy was able to save him $9,000 from implementing some tax saving strategy that his current CPA was overlooking. And so right there as well, just a conversation and a new friendship saved him an additional $9,000. So picking up nuggets, no matter where you go, you get these little nuggets every single day. If you listen
Yeah.
close enough and you apply what you learn.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's super important. I think one thing that Google taught me, when I went there, I thought I was a pretty smart guy, and the level of genius there was just insane. And
I
I
bet.
got humbled like really badly because I thought I was smart. I thought I knew all the answers and what to do, and I learned a lot about better defining problems and understanding what I don't know, which is just super important in business and real estate, is knowing what's the information that I need to take me to the next level. So I agree with you. I mean, I think that's crucial. Is having those mentors and being in those environments that allow for you to see new things that you didn't know that you didn't know, and and you need to figure those things out, and then b, having people you can rely on that are looking at what you're doing and say, hey, this is the next thing you should be thinking about, this is the next thing you should be thinking about, and it's super helpful.
Definitely, because there are those different stages. You know what you don't know, but then there's also that category of where you don't know what you don't know. And so, like you said, if you don't know what you don't know and no one's there to point out that you should know that thing, you could be spinning in circles or spinning your wheels for months or years because you didn't even know that that was the next thing that you should be looking at. It might not even be on your radar. And that's very eye-opening when you meet smart people like that. I was having this conversation with another real estate investor friend recently, and he said he's got one or two friends where they're just so smart that you can tell that regular conversation just doesn't interest them. And so I was trying to think, do I have any friends that are that smart where I feel like I can't really talk to them? I don't know if I do or not. No offense to all my friends, but he was saying that at that level, he just didn't even know what to talk about because they're just on different fields of thinking. And that guy's thinking about like physics equations and I don't know, crazy stuff like that. So at Google, when you felt like you weren't as smart, you got humbled quickly, right? What did you do? How did that make you feel? Did you feel like you needed to learn more or that you couldn't compete, or were you just open to learning?
I mean, I think I think what's good about Google in particular, and especially when I was there, I mean, I think the company now has 200,000 employees, and when I was there, I think it was 20, 20 or 30. So like it's
Wow.
10x since I was there. So the company's changed a lot, but and I came relatively late. Google had been around for a decade, but while I was there, um, I think when you get humbled like that, the great thing about the Google environment was they didn't care who you were. About so if you work in oil and gas or in a lot of these older groups, like seniority matters a lot
They
in
care how
terms
long
of
you've been there. Yeah.
care how long you've been there, and that gives you a lot of clout. But at Google, it's just all about who knows this idea the most. And I think because that was the environment, like when I did get humbled, it was very empowering because it was like, hey, obviously if I'm saying something and I thought I knew it, it's based on work other folks had done that I had researched or read. And I realized, okay, the people that are quote unquote writing the docs and like teaching this don't know it. And so it starts empowering you to be like, you can learn something better than someone else or develop a better explanation of how things work. And that's where I also learned a lot about like how to write and communicate with folks as well, and just be detail oriented in the right ways to help people grow. And I really, yeah. So that's kind of how I reacted. I mean, you're somewhat disappointed, but also there's just such a strong opportunity to have success if you want it that I think it was a little bit empowering as well.
That's interesting. I mean, I went to a private school here in Houston called Strake Jesuit. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's on Bel
Yeah,
Air.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
But I was always told like, oh, our regular classes are like what AP classes are in public school. And so I always just felt like I was smarter than I probably was. And I remember when I went to A&M, public college, I had a preconceived notion that some of my friends who went to these public schools just weren't going to be able to compete with me. And then I got humbled quickly too. On freshman year, a couple of the classes, I got like the 60 on the test, and I'm like, I guess I'll put my paper in my backpack. And then the people who went to the schools where I thought they might struggle, I remember one girl got like a 98 on her first test, and I was just like, but I went to this good school, like I should be smart. Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't let that stop me, of course. I mean, that's just it is humbling when you realize like, okay, I'm not as awesome as I thought I was, and I'm going to have to work harder than I thought I would need to. But at the same time, the flip side of that is that you're not stuck wherever you are. You can always learn and grow more. So I like what you said there about it being empowering, because the people who are teaching it, they weren't always experts. So that left room for someone else to come in there and elaborate on processes and procedures and kind of become the expert.
Yeah. No, it was a great experience. Definitely a life-changing experience. And, I was sad to leave, but it was almost like I learned the lessons I needed to learn there. And it was time for me to kind of make my own path and see what would happen.
Yeah,
And and also having young kids and wanting to be closer to family and friends as well.
absolutely.
Were kind of, two of the big reasons I left.
And so now where you're at, and I know you commented in the Facebook group that I created, you own 12 million in real estate with a couple of other investors that you guys kind of have a portfolio or something, and then you manage about, what was it, 115 doors right now?
No, so with the management piece, we're over 200 doors, so we're around like
Oh, awesome.
200 and 220, 230. Um, we have a new build coming online soon, uh, and then a 38 uh, unit that we're in the process of onboarding as well. So we're just now putting together kind of our marketing for that business, so it's a relatively young business. But with kind of just the environment we're in, it's tough to buy right now. Sellers are not really feeling any pain because they're capable of, at this point now, all Fannie Mae loans, you can delay payments for 6 months. And so that's going to last, through September, October timeframe. And then after that, some sellers may start feeling pain, but then there's going to kind of be a foreclosure process. Interest rates are like really, really low right now, so that's pushing prices up as well. And
Right.
then, buyers like myself and others are like, hey, like, this isn't January of this year. Like, I'm not willing to pay the same price. And so we have this really huge, buyer and seller spread right now. And I think that there's going to be some really good buying opportunities and maybe late Q4, but even like Q1 of next year. And so, I'm looking at deals still, but I'm really looking for super solid deals with very, very like strong opportunity for growth. And that just shrinks the amount of properties that I'm offering on now. And because of that, we're really focused on growing our apartment and small multifamily management portfolio.
That makes sense. So in terms of your goals, are you very clear? Like, what does your day look like? I'm always curious because I'm still trying to figure this out for myself. Do you
Yeah.
kind of have a couple main goals that you focus on every single day?
So I'm doing a 75 hard right now. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes, I have.
Um,
Awesome.
I'm actually on day 60. So I'm almost done.
Don't forget that selfie, the mirror
Yeah.
pic.
Well, now
I
they
hear my
have the
friends
app.
say, "Oh, they have
Now
the app to remind you."
they have an app, and then to check off the picture, you have to upload the picture. Like
Oh,
it
perfect.
forces you within the app, so it's really hard to miss that now. There was a day I have like a secret Instagram where I like upload my progress photos, but there was a day where I didn't upload on Instagram and I was like, oh crap. And I thought I hadn't taken the photo, but I had taken the photo through the app and the app saved
Perfect.
me.
Yeah,
This was
because I
that, and
have
that was
so
like a
many
week
friends
or
that
two
messed
ago.
up. That was a week or
Yeah.
two ago?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people fail between days like 20 and like 38 because the newness is over. It's been a couple weeks. It's tough. You don't want to do it and you're not even halfway done. And so, for me, I was just really diligent about it being a priority for me. And, just trying to like reset and recalibrate was like really important. So I do that, which means I'm working out 45 minutes a day, twice a week. And usually it's walking, jogging, and then five times a week I'm going in and lifting weights. So that's a big part of what I'm doing right now. I wake up, I do meditation as well. So I do the Waking Up app, about 20 minutes of meditation. Um, and then I will like check email and stuff like that in the morning. And a lot of times I'll have like, kind of like one thing that I need to get done earlier for the day. And so I'll knock that thing out and then I'll go up to my office, usually around like 9:30, between 9 and 9:30. Our office opens at 9, and then I will stay there till 2 or 3, then go do my second workout, then be home to eat with the kids at 5, and then we'll do work after the fact, after dinner, if I need to. So that's kind of a day in the life, not super exciting, but whose
Cool.
life is super exciting right now in the COVID
Right,
world.
right. COVID, like get exciting is just going for a jog outside or something at this point.
Yeah.
But what I've heard someone say is that success, I mean, it looks pretty boring because literally you're doing the same thing every single day. You have your set of tasks that you're focused on and you have your set of goals, and that's it. You wake up, you do your workout, you do your meditation, you check your emails, you get to work. And that routine is what makes it, I think, more manageable instead of just going with the flow and having no idea where your day is going to take you. So I'm
Yeah.
focused on getting very clear as well. And every time I'm about to do something new, I have a little thing here with like my 20% activities. And I'm like, does that fall into the 20%? And if not, can I delegate it, delete it? Is it very quick to do? Can I just do it and knock it out of the way?
Yeah.
So clarity.
Something that one of my friends that I'm still pretty good friends with, that he said to me, he was like, you know what the secret is to like the best engineers at Google? And he's a level 8 engineer, and which is really high up. And he's like, good engineers are lazy and they see problems and they want to solve them once and never see them again. And it's like that when you're running a business as well. As like, I'm constantly trying to get to a spot where I don't have to do anything other than look at and negotiate deals, because that's the highest ROI activity. Um, and then, you know, I guess I like managing people as well, and managing our KPIs and stuff like that. I like talking to owners, but those are all like just a few handful of things that if I just do those things, then my business is going to grow and be successful. And you don't, it's kind of like to your point in that you're going to look at a lot of deals and you don't know which deal is going to be your best deal or your lucky deal. But it's like every day or every time you get sent a lead, are you running it through your deal analysis funnel? Are you figuring out what you think the returns are going to be at that property? And you know it's important, I guess, to figure out, like you're saying, what are those 20% activities, because what'll end up happening to a lot of people is they end up getting weighed down doing a bunch of crap that's not really going to move forward their business or increase their revenue. There's a really good book called Essentialism about this idea.
Essentialism.
Yeah, but it's somewhat based on the Toyota manufacturing process that was brought to Japan after World War II, where essentially like, how do you make something less but better? Because everyone can create systems around things and overcomplicate things to prevent problems, but how do you prevent problems and make it easier to do and make it harder to fail? And that's really like the crux of both software design as well as business, is how do you achieve kind of those goals?
That's interesting. And I talk about this sometimes with people who are reaching out and they're trying to figure out how to automate and make things better because there's a lot of human intervention throughout the day. And so if you can have systems in place, and like Calendly has been a game changer for me. Like when I sent you the link to schedule this, it's got a certain time window that are in the afternoon so I can stay focused on my key tasks in the morning. And so now I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to be like, hey, tomorrow at 10 a.m., oh man, now I'm in the middle of something else and now I got to stop and then get on a call. It's all in the afternoon. So I have a system in place that makes it fail proof in a way where I can't have any meetings in the morning because the system that I send the link to others with doesn't allow for it. So like you said, I think essentialism, but also simplicity, defining what is it that I need and what tools are out there that can help me. I think you said you switched from Buildium to what Folio? What's the other?
Appfolio, yeah.
Appfolio. Okay, cool. So you're finding other systems and software to use that work better for you and your business, and that takes time to research. Is this a good
Yeah.
fit? How do I use it? How do I optimize it? When I worked
Yeah.
in oil and gas, we had the system called SAP. I'm not
Oh
sure if you're
yeah.
familiar with that ERP system, and we would always I would always have managers tell me that we're only using this system like 10% of its capabilities. And we had all these custom reports and all these things that confused us. And then we didn't even know how to use the system to its fullest potential. So I think we were leaving a lot on the table there. But
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And ERP systems by definition are just like super complicated.
enterprise,
Obviously,
yeah.
I worked with them a lot, being at KPMG in the oil and gas field as well. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the thing is I think you have to work hard to develop a set of skills that people find valuable. And then once you've done that, you've got to figure out the things that you're best at and can do better than most people, and then start building your business to just do those things. Um, you know, I've been fortunate enough to get some pretty significant, like really good deals on real estate, but I just happen to be good at negotiating real estate. Like that's one of the things that I'm capable of doing well. And I'm also really good at like looking at numbers and performance and being like, okay, you know, what what do we need to fix here? I think I've told you that story about the steamboat repairman. That's like one of my favorite like stories.
I
I don't
can't
know if you
remember if
remember.
you did or not. But when you tell me, I'm going to remember or either really.
Maybe I didn't tell you, but it's the story that I tell all my employees and
Yeah.
everyone that I meet. It's how I think about things. And so kind of in Mark Twain's time, you know, the steamboats going up and down the Mississippi River, they were like everything. They carried cargo, they carried people, they helped people travel, you know. It was just like it to have one of those down was the equivalent of having, you know, one of these chemical plants down. Like they were losing the equivalent of like thousands of dollars a day. And so um there's this steamboat and it breaks, and you know the steamboats were so expensive that they had maintenance guys on the steamboat to fix it, and the maintenance guys are working on, they're like, I don't know what's happening, I can't get it to work. And they're like, okay, well, you know, let's get the mechanic in the city and see if he can fix it, because you know this is a big port and all that. And so the mechanic goes and comes back, and he's like, he's like, I have no idea how, you know, how to fix this. He's like, there's this guy, he lives out far out in the woods, he can fix anything, but he's super expensive. It was the equivalent of like $5,000 just for him to come out, right? And so they're like, okay, well, you know, we're losing thousands of dollars a day, let's call this guy. So they call this guy, and he comes out, and he walks into the steam engine room, and it's, you know, there's just like pipes and all this stuff, because these steam engines just had all this stuff going off of it to move it. And he's like, okay, try to start it. And then they start it, and he's like listening to it. It's dinging and stuff. And he takes out a wrench and he hits this one pipe like as hard as he can, and the whole thing starts working. And everyone's like, the mechanics are like, whoa, this guy's like amazing. That's awesome. But the guy who owns the ship, he's there because he wanted to see this guy. He was paying him so much money. And the guy's like loading up his wrench to leave. And he's like, and the guy's like, I demand an invoice. You were only here for 1 minute. Ridiculous. And then he wrote on the invoice, like, hitting the pipe $1, knowing which pipe to hit $4,999. And that's like the ethos of what business is about, is
So
like,
true.
The person who can help 3 or 4 other people like work within the business and help the business achieve its goals is more valuable than the individual that is capable of like a lot of output. Like, you just can't scale your individual output for a very long amount of time. You know what I'm saying? And so I think,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love that story. I think I've heard that said with a plumber though, where it's like, what,
Okay.
you only hit it somewhere, and he's like, yeah, but I knew where to hit it. And that's true, because I've had issues, back in the day when I lived in an apartment complex, and I'm like, I had leaking around the, I don't know, the AC unit or the condenser, whatever it is inside the house. And I didn't know what was going on. And they came, and the guy just like tightened 2 or 3 things, and like that was it. I don't know. I'm probably using the wrong example, but I had the same experience where the guy was there for 10 seconds, and I'm like, really? Like, I could have figured this out. Fortunately, since it was an apartment and it was included in the lease, like I didn't have to pay for it. But it's the same idea, that knowing where to hit, or knowing what is a deal, and being able to analyze that's very valuable. So you'd say your main skills right now that you want to focus on most are negotiating deals and analyzing deals, correct? If you could do just those
Yeah.
things, that would be your highest
Well, and
level.
also, on the management side, like, I help owners basically maximize their property performance. So I'm good at, my whole CPA background. I'm good at looking at property performance and being like, okay, we should change this, do that. And you know, it's about setting up KPIs and systems that allow for you to be constantly improving your business. And if you take some of the large property management companies in Houston, they've tried to do less, but in doing less, they've damaged the overall product.
Yeah.
So, like I said, they upcharge for maintenance secretly. They don't tell you they're doing it. And then, I was selling my maintenance, because in the winter we don't fill a lot of vacancies. You don't fill a lot of vacancies during that time. So we had extra like maintenance guys, bandwidth, and so I'm like, hey, we'll do your maintenance for you. And then they hired us, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, yeah, I'm the property manager for this property and 10 other properties. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, we should get together for lunch sometime. And he's like, oh, I'd love to, but I can't. I live in Mexico. And I was like, oh man, okay. Well, next time you're in Houston, he goes, I've never even been to the United States. And so this guy was managing property in the United States, in Houston, Texas,
Remotely.
and had never even been in the country. So, like,
Wow.
does that guy know how to talk to people locally? Does that guy understand the market? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
And so, knowing how to streamline your business in the right ways to actually make things better is like the difficult part of it. Because, like I said, everyone can just do less and make a crappier and crappier product. Or, you can always overcomplicate something and hire more and more people and be bleeding money. And it's like, what's that way of achieving the idea of making it better but also making it easier, which is that's the difficult thing.
Yeah, that's the sweet spot that you're trying to achieve. Keep your costs reasonable, I guess, but also having quality, right? Is
Yeah.
that kind of what you're talking about, instead of,
Well, so it's like what are the two biggest, so it's like, okay, we've got a property. What are the biggest things that are going to hurt this owner? Uh having long vacancy times and having high maintenance.
yeah,
Like, insurance is not going to change that much. Mortgage interest rates are not going to change that much. The two ways you're going to lose are maintenance and vacancies. So now I've eliminated most of the other crap in the property. Now we have systems for that, but it's not our urgent and important activities. Like, we group things by how urgent and how important they are. It's not our urgent and important activities, but like, we keep the ship running in those areas that don't matter that much. Like, a good example would be a water bill. If you don't pay your city of Houston water bill, they're not going to shut you off for 90 days after you don't pay. And then most likely than not, they're not even going to shut you off at that point. Now, we get all our utility bills paid every month, but if for some reason we were to miss a utility bill, it's not that big a deal. We have 90 days to remedy that situation. Every day that my, owners' units are vacant, that is, in many cases, several $100s a day that they're losing. And so we have someone, Kaylin, who you've interviewed, like, all I want her to be in charge of is vacancies, and she's doing some marketing and business growth stuff, but like, vacancies is her number one priority. And then I have another guy in my company, all he does is maintenance, and then we have two maintenance guys under him, and then they're constantly giving me information about, what decisions that we need to make, and I'm helping them make decisions around these areas so we can just maximize property performance. And that's why, I have 12 million in property, but I've probably purchased like 7 or 8 million in property. I've just been able to add that much value through rehabs, through
Awesome.
management, to increase the cash flow in those properties. And that's what you need to do. It's like, get the properties, don't go to the guru course, like, find good people that are in your network that can help you grow and help you achieve your wealth goals, because that's the goal at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Network is your net worth for sure. So, Kevin, I know we're at the end of the hour. I appreciate your time. Where can our audience go to reach you? And did you have any last key takeaways that you wanted to leave the audience with?
Yeah, so our website is stagecoachmanagement.com. So you can see our property management stuff. I also respond pretty regularly on Bigger Pockets as well.
Okay.
And then I'm also on Twitter, Kevin A. Wood. There's actually a good little group of real estate Twitter guys out there. I think that's my Twitter name, but I learn a lot actually there as well, and it gives me a lot of ideas for blogs and stuff. So I like interacting on there as well. Yeah, it's Kevin A. Wood on Twitter.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think if someone's looking to generate long-term wealth, I think the number one thing, the biggest mistake I see people make is that they're trying to do something fast in the short term. There is a 0% chance that your first house you purchase is going to make you rich. 0%. Like, there's no way that that's going to happen. Your second deal is not going to make you rich. Like, your first deal is going to teach you some lessons to make a better purchase on your second deal, which will help you make a better third purchase. But by the time you get 10 houses, you've made multi-millions of dollars. And so you have to realize that this is a long game that's going to take time, and really be thinking with a 10, 20-year time horizon, and just following solid fundamentals. Because I tell people this all the time, is like, historically, real estate provides 2% returns, and the stock market has provided 11% return since like 1970. And the 2%, that includes like home ownership in certain places where there's been devaluations. But the idea behind it is that there are people that make really good money in real estate and people that do not make good money in real estate. And the people who do well are the people that follow solid fundamentals, have a long time horizon, and develop a network of people that are helping them achieve their goals, and vice versa. And so that's kind of the advice that I would give to someone new, is like, stop focusing on like, how do I make the most money in 2020, and instead, how do I make the most money in 2030? What do I need to do this year to get to 2030? Because in 2030 you can make, you know, $30 million. In 2020, even if you're really, really good, you might make 100,000.
Yeah, that makes sense. My stomach's growling there on the on the microphone. I was like, oh, that was my stomach. But yeah, that's really powerful. I've heard the quote that says we overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 5. So it's really cool hearing your story, just your timeline and when you left Google, how recently you left. And I mean, when you told me that, I was like, really? You just left like in 2018, if I remember the year correctly? Because I was thinking that you had been doing this for 10 years by now and that's how you've gotten to where you are. So it's really cool to see how fast things can skyrocket when you're just focused and you align yourself with the right people, you do a good job, and you make a name for yourself. So thanks again, Kevin, for all the value that you've dropped today. And I will be sure to add all the links to contact you and connect with you in the show notes of the podcast and in the Facebook group. Cool.
Thanks.
Awesome. And we gotta touch base again here soon. I know we talked here last week, so I want to see how we can work together, how I can add value to you guys, and continue the relationship building.
Cool, man. Yeah, let's do it. And yeah, like hopefully we get these meetups going again.
For sure. Can't wait.
I talked to some folks in the Bay Area, and they are on guaranteed lockdown through the rest of the year.
Wow.
Like no gyms, none of that stuff, and that's insane to me. But
That's
so
crazy.
we're hopefully we're not in that boat, and we're able to like get together in bars and stuff soon. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's crazy. I keep seeing, more and more cases and people that I know who have gotten sick and whatnot. And luckily a lot of people they've already bounced back. But I mean, I guess we got to play it by ear and see how things go. But I'm glad to hear everything's going well on your side, and we'll definitely be in touch, Kevin.
Cool. Chat
Awesome.
again soon, man.
For sure.
Bye.
Thanks.